LoreWarrior Armor. The Tamerlane Strike Sled. Overview. Built on the same principles as the flying gun designs, like the Savannah Master and the SM-1, the Tamerlane Strike Sled was born of the Canopian military's desperation for a cheap and fast harassment vehicle. With some success under its belt, novice executives then shopped the small scout vehicle to the strategos of the CCAF. Though hesitant to accept a periphery-made rocket pile, the Confederation placed a few small orders to bolster their local militia. As the Tamerlane began to garner feedback, especially in regards to its simple maintenance, the CCAF enlarged the order and soon outpaced Novice's single factory capacity. By 3075, Novice had built and put online 2 other factories on Crimari and Paladix. Orders for the Tamerlane remain brisk, and the company has begun selling the sleds to Magistracy-employed mercenary units at below market pricing. Capabilities. Built for speed and handling, the Tamerlane mounts a powerful Magnum 155 fusion engine near the back. To give the 2-man crew extra visibility, they duplicated the bubble cockpit of the Luthian Armor Works SM-1 from a stray SM-1 that had been carried by the vagaries of war all the way across the Innisphere to the Magistracy. The Tamerlane's control systems were adapted to the LAW assemblage, which allows for easy replacement during maintenance and repair. Easy access to the ammunition bay, which is mounted underneath the vehicle, allows crews to quickly swap out between standard SRM warheads and Inferno rounds. Because of the speed of the sled, long-range weaponry isn't really necessary, as the sled can rocket in and out of engagement range quickly. The only complaint that many crews have is its abysmally cramped confines of the bubble cockpit. Seated in tandem, the pilot and gunner are limited in their movement options, and many of the initial crews would suffer severe back and leg pain. A subsequent modification to the interior has alleviated the problems, though taller crew members still have issues after long sorties. Because the sled uses a hard cushion, side-slipping can be a problem for inexperienced pilots. When operating at full velocity and power, pilots have to be prepared for any alteration in the underlying terrain, or they could find themselves sliding out of control in the blink of an eye. Deployment. Tamerlane strike sleds are fielded mainly in MAF and CCAF militaries. Only recently have some mercenaries taken Novice up on their generous pricing offer, which also includes a 5-year exclusivity contract with regards to parts and repairs. Variants. Novice has made a few variants from the baseline model of the Tamerlane. The most common is more of a downgrade, as it only swaps out the ER version of the laser for a standard. This was due to a brief shortage of diverse optics lasers to the Magistracy between 3073 and 3074. Though production of the original version has resumed, the extended range versions are still uncommon, and for the time being only MAF units receive them. 2 newer variants have surfaced though in the last couple of years. One removes the SRM-2 launcher for a single 4-shot Rocket 10 pack. 2 are mounted on the front of the sled and 2 to the rear, giving it a solid 1-2 punch during a slashing attack. Usually found with troops who specialise in fast recon or striking abilities, it's become a favourite slasher for the more reckless male pilots in the MAF. The size of the launchers, however, crowds out some of the cockpit bubble view, which is partially to blame for the recent accident that involved the Tamerlane and the Governor of Booker's Avanti hover limo. The 4th variant is a recent addition to Novice's offering. Rigged for longer duty sorties, this version of the sled mounts 2 medium lasers in the turret and a flamer in the front. The bubble cockpit is specially treated with a darker optical coating, giving it a tinted look. The treatment is necessary, since the excessive brilliance of the flamer can dazzle crews to the point of near blindness. Notable crew. Corporal Seth Kuvala. Son to Major Paul Kuvala in the Raventhier Cuirassiers, Seth remains a dark shadow over his father's successes. Frequently finding himself in positions that his father has to bribe him out of, he was busted back to corporal 3 times over the last 10 years. Posted with the rather unfortunate Raventhier Infantry Guard, Kuvala was assigned one of the unit's 4 new Tamerlanes in 3073, when Colonel Hill decided to augment his infantry battalion with some light vehicle support. I don't know if that's a notable crew. Anyway, it's a 20-ton hover vehicle. Its movement is hover. Power plant is the Magnum 155 Fusion, giving it a cruise speed of 129 kph but a maximum speed of 194. Its armour is the Maximilian 43. The standard version is armed with a single diverse optics extended range medium laser and a single Marklin Mini SRM 2-pack, manufactured by Novice ATH Incorporated on Detroit. Its communication system is the Marconi MPulse 6, and the targeting and tracking is the Marconi TTS Series 2, or as we like to call it in the business, the Macaroni TTS Series 2. Jesus, is this thing cheap. It's kind of strange because the Marconi Pulse 6 communication system is fairly good, standard, but it's not doing anything worse. It's not doing anything particularly better, but it's functional, does the job. Why the targeting and tracking system is so temperamental is beyond me. The system is, if it's a clear day with no kind of weather patterns going on, and when I say weather patterns, I mean like a light shower, perfectly fine. Targeting and tracking works like a dream. As soon as there's a strong gust of wind, a bit of snow, some rain, it's a bit cloudy, the temperature isn't right, it's all over the place. Ghost signals can pop up, it won't track properly, sometimes targets will appear, and you'll get 2 or 3 targets on the screen for a couple of seconds before you have to jolt the thing to get it to work properly. It's the Series 2, because the Series 1, despite it working, of course the company had to find a way to make a bit more money, so of course they jazz it up a bit. Oh, we've got our new and improved system, just to up the costs of the Magistracy. And of course they see the results, so I wouldn't be surprised soon by 3077 if we see the Macaroni TTS Series 3 that basically is just the one with a new, glossier paint. I tell you, it's a racket with some of these companies. Anyway, stat-wise, it has a battle value of 403, but its mass is 2. It has a cruise of 12 and a flank of 18. It has no heat sinks because it don't need them. It has an armor value of 10 on the front, 10 on the left and right side, 8 on the rear, and 10 on the turret, which makes perfect sense. We're talking about a vehicle here that is inspired by such venerable suicide vehicles as the Savannah Master, for instance. So, of course, it's not going to have a lot of armor. It relies on that speed, and let's face it, 12 and 18 is not a bad amount of movement speed, and it's certainly something that it needs. 50 rounds of SRM ammo, which for the SRM is located in the front of the vehicle. You can just see it there to the left of the cockpit. And the ER medium laser, which is on a nice little turret on the top, meaning that it can zoom past and still fire at targets, which is a nice touch. Not a bad looking vehicle. It's actually it looks more like a converted kind of cargo skiff that's been obviously a couple of weapons slapped on it and away it goes. But I think that's kind of fitting for the periphery. I think that makes sense. They probably, you could imagine that the company will have found some kind of commercial model that it already produced, and it just kind of uprated it a bit, different engine, bit of armor, weaponry, and the electronics required to work those functions, and away you go. Basically, it's a cheap and easy piece of kit to produce in large numbers, and yeah, it does the job. It's fitting that the Capellans would be the ones who would be their primary buyer. Not only are they the nearest great house, but it also means that the Capellans were always chronically short of a lot of equipment for a long time. Obviously, by the current standards of writing in the 3100s, the Capellans have become a much more formidable force. But yeah, even back in the 3070s, the Capellans were certainly looking for anything they could get their hands on to sort of bolster their forces as much as possible. So yeah, this is a perfect little vehicle. And it's also nice that the Magistracy, obviously being the producers, have a fair number of them themselves. It's nice when the periphery have a write-up that actually has them building some of their own equipment. It's kind of boring when they're just using the hand-me-downs all the time. But yeah, it's cool. A nice little vehicle. Something that could be used en masse, essentially. So yeah, I'll leave it with that. Rambled on enough. I'll catch you on the next one. And until then, have a good week. Bye.